Resources Committee. I'd like to start off with there is a deputation. It's supposed to be of 2 people. At the moment there's only 1, but ask the committee if they agree to that deputation.
Agreed.
Thank you. I'll go on to apologies and substitutes. Donald, can you help here?
Yes, convener. 1 apology. It's from Councillor Sturrock and Councillor Speed is substituting.
Lovely, thank you. Any declarations of interest? Take that silence as a no. Right, would you like to let Fergus in? It was supposed to be Fergus and Warren, but...
Yes, convener, I can see Fergus is, Mr. Story is in the meeting.
Yes, I'm here, David. Do you want me to start just now?
No, I'll just try to... I'll bring you in, Fergus, but nice to see you again. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good, thank you.
Good stuff. Right, I'd like to start with, right, if I can ask Jackie Buchanan if she'd introduce the report for me, please.
Apologies, convener. I think we need to go through declarations of interest first.
Well, did I not do that?
Yes, you did, convener.
Apologies.
Let you off, Donald. Okay, Jackie.
Thank you, convener. I'd just like to go through the report and provide some information from members in terms of the report itself. As you'll see, it's a community asset transfer application. It's from Showcase the Street and it's in respect of Seaton Park. The proposal is to develop a community facility hosting a virtual reality and technology centre and also on an adjoining 3G playing surface at Seaton Park. The applicant has detailed that the community facility and relevant pitch would all come from recycled materials. In terms of the report, I would ask that you note the background to the CAT application and the Council's policy, and also note the summary information provided by the applicant in Appendix 1. The financial implications and risks are also outlined in the report, and I'll go through those. Also the recommendations and views of the Community Asset Group are narrated in the report and outlined in section 5.4 and 5.5. If the committee were minded to approve the application, this would be conditional on the applicant securing full funding and commissioning the works. If the committee were minded to approve the application, the recommendation is that it's on the standard community asset transfer lease conditions and the standard CAT lease conditions as set out in Appendix 4 of the report. In terms of any such approval, the committee would require to give clear reasons for reaching the decision to proceed to grant the application. And you'll see that under recommendation F, there's 3 bullet points with suggested reasons that you could provide. You may, of course, provide your own reasons. If in turn, instead, the committee were minded to reject the application, clear reasons would require to be given for that, taking into account the relevant considerations which are narrated in paragraph 3.3 and 3.5 of the report. It should be noted that if the application is approved, it will still be necessary to conclude formal legal agreements with the applicant before the transfer formally takes place, and that the terms and conditions will be in line with the Council's agreed CAT policy. In particular, I would note that the tenants will be liable for all repairs and insurance, and that they cannot transfer the lease or sublet it. They must also use the property as agreed, allow the public use for a reasonable charge, if any, and pay the Council's legal fees. If the application is rejected, or if the application is agreed but on significantly different terms and conditions than those applied for, the applicant can in turn seek a review of that decision to the Council's CAT Decision Review Committee and ultimately appeal to Scottish Ministers. In terms of the application itself, it's under the Community Empowerment Act, as you know, the 2015 Act. The Act requires public authorities to assess requests transparently against specific criteria and to agree the request unless there are reasonable grounds for refusal. It should be noted that planning permission was applied for and approved in 2017. It was due to expire on the 31st of May last year. However, due to the Scottish Government COVID legislation, This has been extended to the 31st of March 2021. The group wished to lease the asset for a period of 99 years at a rent of £500 per annum. In terms of the officer's recommendations, it's been assessed by the CAT group, and using the council's agreed assessment model, the community benefit as narrated in paragraph 5.4 is 71.8 out of 90, and the financial assessment out of 52 is 32.3, and it's been assessed as likely to represent best value. Based on this, the CAT group is recommending approval of the CAT application, and the reasons are given under 5.5, the 3 bullet points there. Members are reminded that in line with the report that set the CAT policy, it's for the committee itself to make the final determination on whether to approve or reject it. The group have produced a business plan in support of their application, and that's in Appendix 2. Under paragraph 6, there's the various financial implications. And if the CAT were approved, that would result in an income of £500 per year in comparison to an annual market rent value of £1,800. The proposed lease is a below market rent, but is reasonable and is likely to contribute to the promotion or improvement of social well-being. And the council is therefore permitted to grant the lease at a lower than market value rate. The value of the property itself is reasonably estimated to be £200,000. If the CAT application is approved, Angus Council would have no ongoing repair and maintenance during the period of the lease, and these costs amount to approximately £3,000 per year currently. Rejection of the CAT would result in the potential loss of a facility whose building design would provide a great focus on our growth and the wider Angus area, and also attract many visitors. Paragraph 7 narrates that the risks relevant to the application: there's a risk of failure by Showcase Street to secure the necessary funding. There's also a risk in terms of the community group being sustainable over the length of the proposed lease. And if as a result of failure to secure the funding or to be sustainable, they fail to comply with the lease conditions, it may be the case that the council would be required to consider ending the lease and then decide whether to complete the facility. The necessary consultation has taken place as required under the CAT legislation, and the various appendices are there for members to have considered in relation to the report. Happy to take any questions, convener, in terms of the report.
Thank you, Mrs. Buchanan. Any questions for Mrs. Buchanan? Councillor Whiteside.
Thanks, convener. Thanks, Jackie, for that overview. It's quite an interesting application, and it looks really exciting. I just had a couple of queries about some of the figures. Notwithstanding that it's reasonable to give a community asset transfer group a fair rent, a lower rent than normal, I'm just wondering where the valuation comes for. The valuation of 200,000 seems high in comparison to the normal rental value of £1,800. Is there any reason for that? And the other question I had was the conditions on page 4. The condition that prevents them from subletting, I wondered why that was in place, because it might be quite a useful thing for another small community group to get involved with the facility as well. Thanks.
Thank you for your questions, Councillor Whiteside. I would need to actually defer to my colleague, Mr. Cochrane, who I hope's here in the meeting today, in terms of the valuation, because it's the estates that determine valuation, and also actually in terms of the rent, the sublet question that you asked about.
Is Mr. Cochrane available? That's looking like a no.
Okay, I was just curious about these two things.
I'm sure we can get the answers to those, Councillor Whiteside, for you.
Okay.
Okay, we've got Councillor Duff.
Yeah, thanks, convener. Just sort of following on from Councillor Whiteside's question, it does seem a bit of a disparity between the value and the rent. I just wonder whether Presumably the land is zoned for recreational use, and has the valuation been taken, has that been taken into consideration, the valuation? Because, I mean, presumably it might be dependent on planning. So, I mean, it's a recreational use at the moment, so there would need to be planning permission to change that. And I don't know whether the valuation was based on recreational use or other use. Just a thought.
Buchanan? You're on mute. You're on mute, Mr. Buchanan.
Apologies. Certainly the planning permission would be relevant in terms of the value of the property, and you'll see that it was reassessed. So it would have been reassessed at the time of the current planning application. So that will have been relevant in terms of it.
Does that help, Councillor Duff?
Yes, thank you. Yep.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, any further questions? No? Okay, we'll move on. Fergus, you've got 10 minutes. Right, off you go.
Okay, thank you. Obviously, I was just going to say as well that the centre will have more than just the VR and tech side in it. There'll also be a community hall in there as well. But what I did want to speak about was around the VR side, and then I want to give Warren, who is on the call from Zero Waste Scotland, the platform as well, because he can tell you about the exciting aspects of this building and what it means. So obviously trying to explain to you about VR. VR is a very visual thing. So what I've done is I've come into the building today in Dundee where we have a VR centre, and I'm going to hopefully just show you around there very, very quickly, if you don't mind me doing this, just to give you an example of what it's like. So if I swing this camera around, what you'll be able to see, I hope, is some of the spaces that are here. So I'm going to take a step back. So what happens in VR is that these are booths that are operated within the VR. And as I walk into one, you'll see there's a VR headset on the ground there, here, which goes on your head. And then what the person sees is what is on the screen above us. So everything that plays inside that goes on the screen. Now, I'm just showing you this quickly because it's very difficult, but what I would say to you is if anybody wants to come up and see this after, or I can send a video to you all to show you. This is a CAT VR machine that's imported from China. Now, what this does is this allows people to actually walk and run inside a visual experience. So we've had people on these things that are actually have got disabilities and have never walked for years or have other things, and they've been able to walk and run inside visual experiences. So we've got two of these in Dundee that sit in these booths. Again, this is a game up here called Job Simulator. And what this allows to do is to allow people to actually gain skills and jobs. So we've actually done work with Abertay University where we've created simulated experiences of working in a coffee shop, and we're doing one just now around interview skills. This area here is 2 bays, and what they allow you to do is the floor moves as well. And then over here, you have a driving simulator. Now, this driving simulator is so accurate that you could technically sit and pass your test on it if you wanted to. So what I'm showing you here is just the VR room. I'll also introduce you to somebody. This is a robot. This is artificial intelligence. These, again, are imported from China. This robot has voice and facial recognition. And what it allows young people to do is not just play with it, but to code it and to learn about skills like engineering and other skills. VR has moved on that much that I can now take this headset out. This is a portable headset that you can see. So the ones I've shown you, okay, are all wired. That's a portable headset that can be taken anywhere and used at all. So I know it's a fly-in visit, but what I'm going to tell you is that for the past 5 years, we've worked with Abbey View Primary School, former Hayes Head Primary School, and Jim Coyle has been so enthusiastic about the VR work that we've been doing. In 2019, 4 pupils from Abbey View Primary went down to an event in London presented in front of the biggest banks in the UK who support the Reclaim Fund about their experiences with VR, including one child who had severe ADHD, and gave a presentation in front of some of the biggest financial institutes in the UK. We also work with Arbroath Academy. Arbroath Academy value the VR product to the point where they've now bought, and we've trained their staff to work in VR. Now, there's so many different applications that we can do, but one of the two future jobs coming up is technology, not just around the compute and gaming industry, but around fintech and also areas of cybersecurity. When we're in that area, we'll be able to give that area and the Angus area the ability to be ahead of the game, to have a workforce that will be ahead of the game in technology. And we've got all the links to do it. That's all I'm going to speak about on the VR side, because I really want Warren to tell you about the importance of the building. So I'll hand over to Warren if that's okay.
Yep, that's fine.
Good afternoon, convener, councillors and council officers. Delighted to be given the opportunity just to speak about this project very briefly. I will keep it brief, although I could talk about it for an hour or plus, which I'm sure there's no time for in this meeting. Zero Waste, our Chief Executive of Zero Waste Scotland, which is a funded government leading on resource efficiency, the environment and circular economy. My Chief Executive, Ian Gulland, was asked to go to a meeting at the House of Lords about a year and a half ago, approximately, and at that meeting it was the Princess Royal who was the chair of the meeting, because it was a Chaffinch Trust, which is a kind of a charity that's run by a gentleman called Ben Goss. The charity were really keen to build a community facility somewhere in Scotland which that could support the local economy and local communities. But the specification was that this building should be up to 90% made of recycled materials, but not in any ugly way. It's an absolutely beautiful building to show and showcase that these materials are there and can be used for the climate change challenges we know that everyone's facing. So I work directly for Ian, and he tasked me with taking this project forward. So we looked at a lot of different communities, a lot of different people who were interested in working with us to build this building, and we chose Showcase the Street for reasons that I won't go into now, because of the work they've done in the past and because we're such a credible organisation. And Fergus came along to a meeting at the Construction Scotland Innovation Centre and presented what he would like to do with this building. So we have invested £40,000 this financial year in moving the kind of plans forward with regards all the material specification to make sure this is an absolutely plausible and strong business case to show that this can be done at a cost neutral way. We're really keen to do it in Arbroath for a number of reasons. I've looked into the area and it hits all our marks. This building could potentially be an international showcase. In my opinion, it could win environmental awards, which again would be good for Showcase and good for the council and good for the local area. Fergus has talked about some of the VR applications that he spoke about. We see this facility, when it's in place, hopefully if the council grants permission at this stage, to move on so that it would be a go-to place within Scotland. I mean, ideally it would have been in place for COP21 happening, but that's not going to happen now. But if it had been, it's the kind of place where people would go not only to see the building itself, but to learn using the VR aspects. Using VR and augmented reality, you can sit in a building you're in and put it in, and you can literally look at walls, you can see through the walls, you can see the materials that are being used, the carbon value, the embodied carbon value of those materials relative to a standard, say, gyprock or a standard material. There's a number of Scottish manufacturers who are producing really, really good recycled content construction materials. We're going to work with them to try and get very good deals for the facility, or where we can, perhaps people who would offer solar or various things for nothing. Zero Waste Scotland is absolutely committed to this project, and we think it could be a fantastic resource for not just Arbroath, but for the whole of Scotland. We really do see that not only could it be used for the training that Fergus has outlined, but also linking up with the Construction Scotland Innovation Centre and a number of other people to use the building itself as a training tool using augmented reality, which again, so the ripple effects of this build could be beyond significant and lead to not only high quality jobs for the Arbroath area, but great training for the kids in the area. And I guess that's me had my time. So I could speak about this for a lot longer, because we are really excited about it and we are very committed to it.
Thank you, Warren. Fergus, you've still got a good minute and a half here.
Okay, yeah, I was just going to sum up by saying as well that this has been a really exciting project. The last time we tried to do this, we did it as a sports centre, and it was difficult to try and raise funding. It was good, and it was frustrating for me as a lad who grew up in Arbroath, went to Arbroath High School, continually been involved in and focused on Arbroath. And I think one of the things I can safely say to you here is this is going to be an astonishing project. This is the first building of its kind in the UK. I've been on Zoom calls in the past 6 months with Princess Anne. It's been the most crazy thing I've ever done, I think. But what I've insisted to her is that she needs to help us make this achievable for Arbroath. And she's 100%, she wants to do it. And I think it'll be a combination of funding and in-kind support from the corporate sector. Voight Partnership now are involved as the architect, so we've kept the business local. And we are looking at partnerships in that building, as somebody had mentioned earlier. We had a Zoom call with Arbroath SC Community Trust 2 weeks ago, who have put their weight behind it as well. We want to get local organisations operating from that building as well. It's not just about us. And I think if you look at our Dundee building here, that's exactly what we do now. So I really hope you can give us the opportunity to take this forward and have the confidence that this is something that's coming from an Arbroath laddie as well. I really want to see it happen.
Thank you, Fergus. Thank you, Warren. That was a very good presentation. If you just hang on, some of the members may have questions for you. I see that Councillor Speed has got her hand up. Is it a question, Councillor Speed?
Yeah, I've got a question. Thank you, convener. But firstly, just to fully applaud Fergus, yourself and your team that are behind this project for your ongoing commitment and efforts to bring it to the council for consideration. You have demonstrated the many benefits and as well as the kind of inequalities that you can perhaps overcome within that area. I do remember seeing plans a few years ago for the previous project that you highlighted. And I think at that time I'd mentioned to you changing places and the importance of a kind of fully inclusive community with facilities that can meet a diverse range of needs. I noticed within the report it does state that you may install a change in places facility. Are you able to give any more kind of assurances or firmer commitments that you will indeed install a change in places toilet? Because that is something that many of my constituents within the Arbroath Eastern Lunan area do rely on.
No, I don't think that'll be any problem to do that. I know the cost of it. I've done it in previous projects that I've been involved in. So, and as we know, it isn't just about the poverty gap, it's about other things. And it's something that I'm very conscious of. I unfortunately had a brother that died at 16 that spent all these years in Strathmartin Hospital in a wheelchair. So I won't go into that too much, but something that I'm very much behind.
Yeah, thanks, Fergus. And just another couple of questions, if that's okay, convener.
Yeah.
Just in terms of, I've obviously seen the financial kind of figures, but in terms of just individual families who may well be experiencing financial difficulty, this is still going to be a project that, you know, even those on with low finances will be able to participate in, so that all kids get the opportunity to experience and benefit from this facility.
Yeah, again, it's something that we've done in Dundee. I would say we'll have a mix of people coming across the door, and we've got about 2,000 people a week that come across our doors when we are fully open. And within this local area, we've got serious problems here. We've got, we've got serious and organised crime. We've got everything on our doorstep. And we do a mix, but we do it in a subtle way, so the families don't feel that they're coming in and being shown to have those issues. Mm-hmm. So everybody just walks in the door the same. Okay,
that's great. Thanks, Fergus. Thanks, convener.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Devine.
Well, thanks, convener. I don't have a hand up. I just can't find it. So thank you very much, Fergus and Warren, for your presentations, because this is just such an exciting project, I think. just a wee bit sad it's not in Forfar, to be honest. But obviously the place is there in our growth, and I think this will be wonderful. I know Showcase is straight from a while back, but obviously you've moved on tremendously with all the different VR and so many things. And the building is just ticking all the boxes for climate change. So brilliant. The only question I had was about, you did mention about at least 20 new full and part-time jobs. Now, clearly that's not going to happen immediately, but I just wonder if you could give us your thinking on this and the way that that might build up over time.
Yeah, kind of similar to what we've done in Dundee, really. We have reception staff, we have admin staff, we'll have cleaning staff, we'll have people that will do the various tasks. So you need specialisms to work in the VR room. You need specialisms to be working with some of the sports projects, some of the arts projects as well. What we see is a combination of those jobs coming from certainly from the immediate local area, and then for some of those expertise jobs, if we can't find them locally, it's something that we'll build up and train people on. So, and that's what we've been able to do here. When we had, we've got 3 full-time dance tutors. 2 of them came through our classes in Arbroath. So I would say that it's a combination of things that we'll do. The VR does need initial expertise, but Abertay University, through their Masters Computing Gaming course, again have said to us that they're keen to be involved in outreach programs here as well, which is a fantastic thing because their course is a world-leading course. I mean, people come from all over the world to it. So we'll use a combination of those methods to make sure that we do reach that total. But we will need it because the building will be so busy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Devine. I'll move on. Councillor Boyd.
It is a comment. So you can hold fire if you want, David.
Just go on, Councillor Boyd.
Thank you, David. Fergus, wonderful seeing you. I was looking back 23 years ago, our cross paths. Doing something slightly similar, but these days it was Nintendo, and when we were trying to get when we were trying to get things sorted out for the drop-in centre for teenagers in Carnoustie, and sadly over the times over the 23 years since then, the funding didn't exist anymore, and sadly I had to close down a few years later. But the comment I want to make is, look, I think it's great. I think it's absolutely super. If you are thinking about extending it throughout Angus, have a word with Diane, who's in this call as well, because the Panmure Centre in Carnoustie is now where we could well be trying to try and resurrect a drop-in centre for kids along with adults and so on and so forth. This would be an ideal situation. I'd also be helping out that CAT that will be coming up in the next month for them to get funding accordingly and hopefully get some drop-in centres similar to the ones that you did. You worked very hard and tried to help us as much. I know you're an Arbroath lad, but you also were very supportive of Carnoustie as well, and it was very much appreciated 23 years back. So bear us in mind for as you move forward and if you're expanding. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Well, part of that was a question, albeit to Fergus. Thank you, Councillor Boyd. I'll move on. Councillor Warren.
Yeah, mine's just more a comment as well. Davies, leader, just wants me to go on.
Well, I've allowed one, so right on you go.
Yeah, Fergus, thanks very much for the presentation. I'm fully in support, the same as my other ward councillor, Councillor Speed on this. It's great to see something coming along to Arbroath East and Lunan, especially with all the new housing and everything else that's happening up there and the redevelopments. So, you know, fantastic and fully supportive of it. And my daughter used to attend your Showcase Street dancing down in Lindsay Street many moons ago before that closed up. So yeah, well worth the vote today, I think. So thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Warren. Councillor McMillan Douglas.
Thank you very much, Convener. Again, I think this is a comment too, I should say, Convener. This is a fantastic project. It's great to see another fantastic project coming to Angus. With all the new businesses we've got coming into Angus now, this is a very exciting place to be. I was taken through a few months ago the use of virtual reality in the training of surgeons at Nine Wells. So it's amazing the range of things that VR covers. The real comment I wanted to make there as a past member of the court of Abertay University is that this fits so perfectly with Abertay's vision. It is the global center of computer games, I would argue, although that changes slightly from year to year. But it also has a real objective in involving the local community in these global leadership activities that it has. And this seems to fit with that so well. So fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor King.
Yes, convener, thank you very much. We seem to have been shanghaied into comments before we finish up questions.
Once you do one, you do them all.
Sorry?
Once you do one, I think you've just got to.
That's right. Okay, all I want to say, it seems to be a very long time, sort of not half a lifetime, but almost a decade, I think, since the proposals for this site were first raised. I remember Fergus being there, I remember Arthur Pritchard being there, and it seems a very long time since that happened. I'm glad to see this is moving to the situation where we're getting to the CATA transfer. The only comment I would make to Fergus is let's get started on the construction as soon as possible so that you don't have to reapply for planning permission. Remember, you've only got to start digging the foundations to start. And I'd like to see that before your planning permission runs out in, I think you said it was March?
Yeah, we've actually got plans with Voights to do that if we get approval today.
Good.
Okay, Jackie Buchanan, did you want to come in?
Yes, if I may, convener, thank you. It was just to say that the surveyor who assessed the value or was involved in setting the terms and conditions of the lease in terms of the sublet provision and also involved in relation to the valuation, although I understand that it was externally assessed, is here now. So we'll be able to answer the previous questions asked in relation to what was the rationale for the valuation, was the planning permission relevant, and also, as I say, in relation to the sublet and what the rationale behind restricting that is. So it's a Mandy Robinson, Chair.
Okay. Did you say Mandy's here?
Yes, I'm Mandy Robinson. If you would like to repeat the questions so that I can then answer the specific questions.
That's fine. On you go, Mandy.
Could you repeat the questions?
They came from Councillor Whiteside.
Hi, Mandy. Thanks. I was just curious as to the reasons for the sublet conditions, because I thought it might be quite useful in a facility like this to sublet a part of it at times to other small community organisations. And I had a question about the valuation. The annual rent seemed low in comparison to the value, but I'm not against giving the community organisation a lower rent. I just wondered what the rationale was behind the valuations. Thank you.
Well, in terms of your first question with subletting, that's normally a condition to ensure that it remains available for community use. So there wouldn't be a prohibition against the hire out to other community groups, but it's say to prevent a community group making an application and then subletting to a private company or something like that. So it's really just to protect the community use of any facility.
Okay, thanks.
With regards to valuation, it's not an exact science. In terms of the valuation provided for the proposed use, that's based on comparison with other similar types of leases that we have for other community buildings, because really it is just the ground that we're leasing, because obviously the group themselves will be providing the building. The capital valuation, that's based on what could potentially go on the ground because obviously the number of uses that there could potentially be are very varied. You know, the ground subject to planning could be used for all sorts of things. And if planning, say, was available for housing, then the value would be substantially more.
Okay, thanks. I was just curious. It's obviously a really exciting proposition, and I think it's pretty low risk as far as the council's concerned as well. So it'd be really good to see this going ahead. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Duff, I think you had a question.
Convener.
Convener, I think that question's been answered actually. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
May I?
Anything else?
Convener.
Councillor Speed?
Can I come back in with another question, but for an officer?
Yes, you certainly can.
Thank you.
Andy, can I just thank you? I think that's the questions finished for you. So thank you for coming in. On you go, Councillor Speed.
Thanks, Convener. Like I say, I'm well excited for this project to go ahead and the opportunity, the benefits that it'll have for, especially for children and young people and families in that area. But for public transparency, and just touching on what Mandy had said about potential other uses, would someone from Howson, I think Mr. Morrow's on the call, be able to explain why this bit of land wouldn't be considered for housing? Because I do have a number of constituents in the area with unmet housing needs. So I've had the ability to be able to ask these questions beforehand. So perhaps just in order for clarity and public transparency, Mr. Morrow could explain why this wouldn't be considered for housing.
Okay, Mr. Morrow.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. Thanks, Councillor. As you know, recently the Communities Committee approved our latest Strategic Housing Investment Plan, the SHIP, for the next 5 years, and in the SHIP we lay out how many units we'll be delivering over that 5-year period, and in that the council will be itself building around about 250 units. Now, the reason I mention that is obviously looking to the next period of the Strategic Housing Investment Plan over the next 5 years beyond 2026. We have to consider the capacity and the resources in place for delivering all the housing projects that'll go in there. And that's within the context of other site availability, and also obviously within the context of the other outcomes that the council and our partners are striving to deliver. In this case, we think there are other sites available in the Arbroath housing market area that could deliver the number of units that we think are required for that next 5-year Strategic Housing Investment Plan period. So we can deliver that, we think, without having to utilise this site. And the other thing we have to consider, that if committee do approve this proposal, the asset being delivered would obviously provide a great community hub and real benefits for the council's tenants that we have in that area already, and clearly also the other residents in Cliffburn and the rest of Arbroath. And I think in particular, improving the health and well-being of our tenants is clearly a real priority for us as a housing service, but also the council. And I think as Fergus and Warren have set out here, one of the things we're really interested in as a housing service is giving opportunities for our tenants to take on new skills and experiences, especially for the young people in Arbroath. And I think, the opportunity here that gives shouldn't be underestimated. The other thing probably to say around valuation is, although that notionally the capital receipt value is £200,000, there are probably difficulties around the potential use as housing, because it's been used as a sporting facility in the past. There would have to be a change of use planning application made, and a statutory consultee in that process would be Sport Scotland. And it might be problematic in trying to make a justifiable argument to make a change of use from sport and open space to housing, when clearly we have a facility that's on the table, which is in itself is essentially a sort of sporting and physical activity. So I think coupled with the fact that there are other sites that we think can meet the future need, that's in a sense why we're supporting this this proposal and not putting it forward as a housing site.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Is that helpful,
Yeah, like I say, I was able to ask those questions before, but I just think it just helps the public to understand our decision making. So thank you.
Yeah, most certainly. Okay, I notice there's still 3 hands up, but I take it they're old ones. Councillor Speed, yours is one of them. Jackie and Councillor King.
No, mine is a question on the back of Councillor Speed's question. It's probably one for John Morrow, but certainly in the planning side. It's my recollection that there were at least 2 public consultations before planning application went through the last time round. And it was very much indicated by the residents in the area that they did not want to see further housing on this site. And I think that was the advice that was given to the planning committee. Could that just be confirmed? I'm pretty sure it's in the report somewhere, but I just can't put my finger on it at the moment.
I must have missed that as well. Anybody from planning? I don't think there is anybody from planning here, Councillor King. Could we come back to that maybe?
Yeah.
Convener, it's John Morrow here. I can give out, I suppose, it's a comment really, Councillor, if it helps.
That's fine, thanks, John.
As you know, that the project, I think the initial proposal came forward a number of years ago, and prior to that, there was a discussion with the Residents Association of Cliffburn and Hayes Head. And as you say, Councillor, their preference once there was a proposal for this this project was that the project would be preferable to housing. I have to say I can't comment on whether that was part of the planning application, but certainly that was the result of the consultation from the Residents Association at that time. And I think that in the form they're in now, I think they're still supportive as well.
That help, Councillor King?
Yeah, that's pretty much my recollection of the situation.
Okay, thank you. Right, have we got any further questions, comments? No, can I just thank right, Fergus and Warren for coming along. I'm going to move on to the business side. I don't think it's going to take too long, to be quite honest. And you're more than welcome to stay to listen to that part. But right, thank you again, gentlemen. Okay, to the committee, you've got the recommendations in front of you. So on the business side, I'll ask, is there any questions? I didn't think so. Or is there? I've got a Councillor King hand up again.
Oh, sorry, that's
an old one, no problem. Okay, any further comments? No. Well, I'll make mine. I've listened to a number of words here. Astonishing, wonderful opportunity, exciting, incredible, and I'll use my favourite, stunning. I think this will be absolutely marvellous, not just for that area, but for the whole Arbroath and beyond. So I'd like to congratulate everybody who has been involved in bringing this forward. I'm going to move that we grant this with the recommendations A, B, C, and D are all to note. E is based on information, and F is to agree the application. If the application is approved, this will be conditional on the applicant securing full funding package required and commissioning the works. And 2, agree the application. You can read all that through yourself. There are 3 different parts to that at the bottom, how we can agree with. To be quite honest, that they're all suitable. I was looking at the bottom one. It would be a unique additional resource in the area, bringing a wide range of community uses and benefits, and would be an asset to the town more broadly. Anybody want to add to that? If not, is that agreed?
Agreed.
Okay, Jackie, do you want to perhaps say the final parts of what happens now?
Thank you, Convener. Can I just clarify that the justification for your decision is all 3 bullet points?
Yes.
Under, is that correct? Yes, that's what the committee have decided. Thank you. What happens now will be necessary to conclude formal legal agreements before the transfer actually takes place, and we'll proceed to do that in terms of there'll be a decision notice issued in the first instance in terms of the committee's decision today, and thereafter the legal process will take place in terms of formally agreeing the decision in effect.
Okay, thank you. That's right, Fergus. Congratulations, Warren. Right, right, well done. Right, and thank you. And that concludes the meeting. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you, convener.